let's return to our top story. The Ukrainian capital has once again been the target of Russian missile strikes. Several explosions have been reported in Kyiv as well as other cities. In recent days, Moscow has stepped up its strikes targeting energy and water facilities. Russia is accusing Ukraine's government of attacking its Black Sea fleet. Well, for more on that, we can now speak to the Eastern European Affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskovich, who joins me now from London. Good to see you as always, Dr. Laskovich. And I suppose it would make strategic sense for the Ukrainians to want to attack and damage the Russian Black Sea fleet. But of course, the Russian motto seems to be, if you hit us with a stick, we'll hit you with a sledgehammer.
Well, in my opinion, I honestly doubt that Ukraine was behind anything. It is far more likely this is all just Russian propaganda. Please remember, the Russians are experts at propaganda, and if they can't find an excuse, they'll just manufacture one. So in my opinion, what is now happening isn't so much Ukraine doing anything as Russia softening up, so to speak, Ukraine, ahead of the presumed assault, which would make sense of its partial mobilization.
And is that softening up working in your assessment?
The question is immediate and long term. In the immediate, I don't think it's working in the sense that Ukraine is suddenly going to submit or surrender. In that sense, no. Please remember, the British bombed Berlin day in, day out for some time, and Berlin still hung on and had to eventually, of course, fall to a Russian force in the Second World War. Likewise, London was blitzed by the Germans, and even so, hung on. So I don't think in the short term, the problem is the long term. You see, the damage to the Ukrainian economy in every respect, including to its businesses and to its ability to carry on. And here, of course, is where the recent decision not to permit grain exports, very important, means that Ukraine is very costly. Can the war be carried on in economic terms? Will the West support it economically sufficiently? This is, I think, where he is likely to score more, and also simply wearing out the Ukrainians, as opposed to an immediate surrender, which I do think is virtually zero in possibility.
And you mentioned those grain shipments that Russia has pulled out of that deal. We understand that the ships that are going through are ones that are already in Ukrainian ports. Beyond the hope, of course, that maritime routes would somehow remain open, is it your reckoning that any cargo vessel operators would be willing to send their ships through waters where there is not a guarantee of safety from an aggressive power?
I believe personally there's no chance at all. The central problem is that if they're not safe, then there's no insurance. If there's no insurance for the boats, then it's madness to go there. It is simply economics. And in that respect, I don't expect the shipping to continue. If Russia is unwilling to allow it, then simply no ships will leave, come and go. It hinges on Russia.
Well, I mean, you know that area reasonably well. You're from neighbouring Poland and so on. Is it possible, because I've heard suggestions that perhaps they could use trucks to move grain into neighbouring countries like Poland and then export from there, or go by rail? Is that a possibility, a way of getting around this Russian decision no longer to guarantee the safety of those ships?
Yes, it is. However, it must be remembered that one ship is an awful lot of trains or trucks. And therefore, that's why shipping, of course, remains such a major method of moving goods. Not to mention the fact that it would cause extreme delay to have to go via Poland, say, to arrive at Ethiopia, which is, as I said, on the brink of a famine. And therefore, in this respect, there is something that can be done, but it is, if you like, a minor palliative for a major problem. And in my opinion, it will quite possibly, Russia may even hold that by means of interdiction. If they knock out the trains, which is quite possibly their next target, then obviously it will be even harder to export anything from Ukraine.
Well, it sounds very worrying indeed, especially for people in Africa, where this could really be a major problem. I want to thank you very much indeed, Dr. Marek Laskovic, who is an Eastern European affairs analyst, and he was talking to me there from London.